I love a game that lets me spread my hypothetical wings and soar high with excitement, gaining power and gaining options as the game goes on. Radlands feels like it falls just short of this. I feel more like a free-range chicken where life is good, there's plenty of space to roam, lots of things to discover, and fun to be had for hours. But my wings are clipped, preventing me from really flying, and the other chicken in the coop is slowly pecking me to death. This is one of the hardest games that I've had to try and verbalise my opinions on, because honestly I really like this game, but there's something here that just keeps it from being fantastic for me, and I'll try my best to articulate what that is in this review. Hi friends, I'm Jake.
And I'm Bess.
And we're Bored Down Under. Just before we dive into our review of Radlands, let me preface it by saying that while I've got a fair amount of experience with two-player dueling games like Magic the Gathering, etc., Miss has a lot less, and the experience that I have is not really at a competitive level. It's very casual, so please take everything that we say in this review with a grain of salt, but it might give you the perspective that you're looking for.
Yeah, so Radlands is a very tight two-player competitive dueling game. It's designed by Daniel Piechnick and published by Roxley, and we had the absolute pleasure of playing this super deluxe edition, which includes the highly saturated and beautiful neoprene mats. While these aren't essential, boy oh boy are they gorgeous. The game itself comes in this minimalist box with a magnetic flip top, which is just insanely satisfying to open. Inside you'll find weighty water tokens and synthetic cards, both of which provide an awesome tactile experience. The cards themselves are wonderfully illustrated and provide all the information needed to play the game in a minimalist manner using easy to grasp iconography. Needless to say, the components here, they just blew us away. From the moment we opened the box, it was just this wow feeling. We almost didn't even want to play because it's just so beautiful and striking and well produced that it seems like it should be a collector's edition, just sitting on a shelf.
Yeah, in thematic irony, this kind of feels like the game that I could picture in a dystopian future, some gang boss having out on his table playing with some other gang boss having, an intense Godfather or Mafia talk, and it really does feel truly stunning, and the production here I think is going to survive the test of time, so very impressive. Now, thematically, if you haven't already picked up, this is set in a post-apocalyptic world. You're going to take the role of a leader of a group of survivors, and you're going to be trying to protect your own camps and take down that of your opposition. Water is precious and used as the primary resource for pretty much everything. Thematically, this game is fantastic. All the artwork, the cards themselves, the abilities, the camps in particular, it all does such a fantastic job of tying in thematically and painting this picture of a chaotic world where anything goes to ensure your survival. Us Australians really love that Mad Max kind of vibe.
Yeah, well, in terms of gameplay, in my opinion, the most capturing part of this happens before the game's even begun. Players get dealt 6 camps and choose 3 to use during the game. These camps do 2 things. First, they determine how many cards you start the game with, and having options in hand is incredibly useful, so this shouldn't be taken lightly. Second, they provide abilities, and these are usually very powerful or flexible. Additionally, they often synergize with each other or other cards in the game, so this selection is a critical point in the game, and it's really fun to find different combos that can synergize well together. During gameplay, there is a single deck made up of people and event cards that players draw from. People get played onto your board and provide some form of ability. Depending on where you place them, they also provide protection to your camps and any other person behind them. Events, identified by the black and yellow border, get played into the event track, and they resolve after they've reached the end. They move closer to triggering at the start of your turn. Both of these cards have a really wide range of abilities and effects, and these are going to allow you to do some really awesome things during the game. And of course, there's always the potential that they may combo and synergize really well with one of your camps or one of your other cards. Now, on your turn, you're going to be able to draw 1 card, and in a real pinch, you can spend 2 water to draw another. But cards in this game seem really scarce, and more often than not, we were finding that we were exhausting our hands. Any card can be discarded from your hand for an instant effect, known as junking. And again, this shouldn't be underestimated, because these effects can be clutch, and most importantly, other than losing the card itself, there is no cost. Using these abilities and effects, you're going to control the board, or bypass it entirely, to go straight for your opponent's jugular, or juggernaut, to win the game.
But coming back to the absurdity that is me daylighting as a chicken, this limited access to water is what clips my wings and leaves me feeling super parched. I've got a fair few opinions around how the water in this game works, and bear with me while I unpack all those. Everything in the game is going to cost you 1, maybe 2 water to activate. Well, not everything, most of the things in this game. You'll start the game with 3 camps that potentially have abilities that you want to activate, but you'll also have cards in your hand that you want to develop onto the board, costing more water. A turn or 2 in, this might increase to having both camps and people abilities to activate, plus more cards in your hand that you actually want to use. Rarely do you ever have enough water to do all this. And that's not a bad thing. It makes this game really tight. So incredibly tight. You are given so much thought and so many decisions that you need to make on your turn to try and set something up for the next turn. But this feeling of being starved for resources is exaggerated even more when you realise that you need to invest a water or 2 to react to what your opposition did the turn before, making the game even tighter. There's a huge level of back and forth here, and I cannot commend this game enough for finding that level of balance. But it comes at a cost. Every single turn, players are going to gain 3 water, and there's a possibility that they'll have access to more through the water silo card or through other cards in the game. But this consistent access to 3 or 4 water means very rarely do I feel like I have a turn that is powerful or that really plays significantly different from another. In many dueling games, such as Magic the Gathering, players are going to start with little or no resources, and then they're going to gradually build these up as the game progresses. This creates a game arc that has powerful turns towards the later stages of the game, and these powerful turns can create memorable moments and invoke a spike of emotion one way or another. Similarly, deck building games, players start with a basic deck that is pretty substandard, and then as the game progresses, that deck is going to get more and more powerful. In contrast, Radlands feels like I'm always taking 2 actions on my turn, followed by my opponent doing the same, creating this process of 2 steps forwards, 1 or 2 steps back. And this feels like this strategic tug of war where, in the end, the higher skilled player is likely to pull the other player to their untimely demise. There is the ability to junk cards and occasionally gain additional water, which does let you do a bit more, and there are combos between the cards, but these all feel just so balanced. Now I know what you're thinking, balance isn't a bad thing, Jake, and you're completely right. Balance in a game like this makes it so strategic. It makes this super tight back and forth between the players, and I commend the game for being like this. But it also hasn't allowed me to find a freedom in finding game-breaking combos, and that sort of sensation is fun when I'm playing games. I enjoy trying to break a card game like this and find these super impactful synergies and combos. In this game, there are synergies and combos, but they all feel so tightly wound that nothing is what I would call game breaking. And maybe that's because your hit points are so low. You've only got these 3 camps that can take 2 damage each. And so it's really difficult to have a lot of design space to enable game breaking combinations. But it just doesn't have that experience, in my opinion. So back to my analogy of a slowly dying chicken, this game kind of feels like when you're losing, it's death by 1,000 pecks. All that said, it's entirely possible that I just haven't found these synergies in the game, but they might very well be there. I want to reiterate that this is a really solid and good game. I've enjoyed this. I've played this more than a dozen times and I'm going to keep playing it. It's just that the shoe doesn't quite fit for me.
With Jake's rant on hydration, we've pretty much wrapped up the gameplay. There's just a couple of other small niggles that we had with the game. Now, our first playthrough of this, it took us over an hour, and there's many reasons for that, and most of those reasons can be wrapped up in saying that we were and probably still are bad at this game. But it's just something to be wary of for new players, because this game certainly doesn't shine at that kind of time length. And finally, Mulgastain. It's just a card that we really weren't enjoying. I'm not complaining that it feels unbalanced, it's not, but it does feel polarizing. We had 2 games end because he was able to stick to the board, one of which was on turn 2. And while you could say that about lots of cards, this guy really takes that feeling to the extreme. So if this game isn't necessarily for us, then who's it for? I think players looking for a deep experience who want to grow and play competitively with similarly skilled players are really going to find a lot to like here. This game's going to have a huge fan base who play the heck out of it. And I think the better you get at this game, well, the more you're going to enjoy it, because your efficiency is going to mean that those little advantages you get within a back and forth, they're just going to feel a lot more impactful.
Yep, so summing up, from the moment you see this box, you'll be blown away by the production. When you step into your first game or two, you'll be awed and enticed by the camp selection and the potential synergies. And from the get-go, you'll have a handful of cards, barely enough water to spend, and you'll be racking your brain with options aplenty. With any luck, your first game will wrap up in a reasonable amount of time, and I can almost guarantee you that you'll want to jump straight into your second one. For us, this game is a solid game. We have enjoyed this, it's a good game, but for many, I think this is going to fall into the great category. I think the highly tight nature of it and how strategic it is and the back and forth there is going to be enough to push this over the edge for people. If you've enjoyed this content, please throw us a like and think about giving us a subscribe if you want to see more from us. Please drop us a note in the comments. We love hearing from you guys. It really does make all of this worthwhile. We are so grateful for all the comments that we get and all the interaction that we get. I'm Jake.
And I'm Miss.
See you next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.